you guys today. Dijonai Carrington, after clotheslining Sophie Cunningham, running into the locker room, screaming, "That's white privilege!" Then tweeting 8/23, threatening Sophie Cunningham and the Indiana Fever. Dijonai Carrington now comes out and clarifies what she means when she says white privilege for the Indiana Fever.
So with 2 minutes left in the first quarter, Dijonai Carrington just slapped the dog shit out of Sophie Cunningham. Sophie pops up. She's obviously upset. Dijonai says, "Try me." And then look at Stephanie White. Look at her face. Look. She's mad as shit. Now, number one, this is obviously a flagrant 2. It just is. By the letter of the law, you got to call a flagrant 2. We all know these refs are not.
That girl needs to be thrown out the league. She's not even a good enough player to be bringing this type of drama. She needs to be thrown.
Sophie Cunningham, otherwise known as MAGA Barbie in the WNBA, is a superstar player. She's one of the most famous female athletes in the world because she stood up for women in women's sports, saying only biological women should be allowed to play in the WNBA. And for that, she is literally risking her life. Check this out. This is what happened to Sophie Cunningham last night when she was clotheslined by a filthy, dirty player for Chicago who has a name that I can't pronounce, or maybe I just refuse to do that. That's my right as an American. But this is a player that has attacked Caitlin Clark, gouged her eye out, that has now bloodied the face of Sophie Cunningham. And as soon as she did this, she tweeted white privilege, meaning she's declaring this is a race crime. Now, if a white woman was doing this to black women, it'd be the #1 story in the world. She'd be banned from the league forever. But somehow black women are allowed to get away with this against white women. And it's white women in the league who make themselves a target by simply standing up for traditional values and...
Rumor has it that Reebok is discreetly considering severing its relationship with Carrington. Furthermore, the name reportedly being suggested to take her position on a list of approved athletes is not some unknown rookie. Sophie Cunningham is here. That's Sophie Cunningham, the same player Carrington has been involved with repeatedly over the past week. A few months ago, almost nobody would have predicted that these two names would become connected to a major shoe deal controversy. So if the reports are accurate, this could become one of the strangest turnarounds in sports marketing this year, especially with two opposing players now appearing at the center of a dispute that could potentially put one of their endorsement careers under serious financial pressure.
Ew! That's assault, brother. You can't do that. What the fuck? Is this just the default if you can't think? Or if you just, don't want to take accountability for your actions? Oh, my God. This league, bro. This league. Bro. White privilege while you're wearing a bleach blonde dyed wig. I mean, the fuck? What is privileged about that? You stone cold Steve Austin clotheslined her ass. What about that is white privilege? The WNBA stays undefeated. It truly does. They can't get out of their own.
This is how we arrived at this point. Carrington was signed by Reebok with the expectation that she would represent their basketball line. Someone with charisma. Someone fans would want to support both on and off the court. That's what an endorsement contract is really about. Your jump shot isn't the only thing a brand is paying for. They're paying for the emotional impact you create when consumers see your name on a shoebox, in an advertisement, or in a video promoting their favorite sport. And lately, DJ Carrington hasn't exactly helped create the kind of positive reaction brands usually want. Brands pay close attention to those changes, often much faster than fans realize.
Beyond concerning at this point how far from the plot we have actually gotten. And when I say the plot, I mean the basketball. How far from the game of basketball we have spiraled. When we're talking about the WNBA, we used to joke, it's like, 0 days without drama in the WNBA. This league is living up to it at a rate and a level of concern that we haven't ever had with all the
craziness going on in the WNBA. Dijonai Carrington tweeted out white privilege. white privilege from the locker room of the game that she was playing in. Get this. She fouled Sophie Cunningham hard. Sophie Cunningham, obviously a white person, fouled her hard. Flagrant 2, gets ejected, goes to the locker room and tweets out white privilege in the middle of the game. Now, here's the kicker to me. A flagrant 2 has to be contact that can lead to an injury that looks excessive. DJONai, it was about as excessive as possible. If there was any evidence of there being white privilege, this was not it. What the hell do y'all?
Carrington was involved in 3 different fouling incidents in a single week, prompting viewers to replay the footage just to make sure they saw what happened correctly the first time. These weren't ordinary hustle plays that could easily be dismissed as 2 competitors battling for position in a physical league. They were the kinds of moments that caused commentators to pause before they even knew what to say on television. And each of those incidents somehow involved Sophie Cunningham, which is exactly the kind of coincidence that starts looking very different when it happens 3 times within such a short period.
Right across the face, coming down, trying to prevent the layup, but that is just a hard hit. That's definitely going to be upgraded, I think, to a flagrant 2, Ryan.
I think that is going to be a flagrant 2. There is
Wind
lined
up
up
deserve.
and just getting her out of the
Lucky
way.
wasn't a right hook.
Make no mistake about it. Carrington targeted Cunningham. She targeted her because of her political stances. She targeted Cunningham because of the praises that she keeps receiving. She targeted her with a dirty shot that had absolutely nothing to do with basketball. And then after getting ejected, she runs to the locker room to play the fucking victim card. Like she didn't try to just take off Cunningham's head in 4K. Like we all didn't just watch it happen. That is not competition. That is a grown woman swinging on someone who she disagrees with and then screaming racism when she gets held accountable for it. DJONai Carrington needs to be held responsible. And I'm not talking about just getting ejected from the game. She deserves a suspension. Maybe she'll think twice next time before she tries to take some.
Look, physical basketball is nothing new. Toughness has always been part of what makes this league exciting to watch, and nobody is asking players to suddenly go soft on the court. However, there is a clear difference between playing tough and playing recklessly, and many viewers watching these clips believe Carrington crossed that line multiple times within just a few days. One bad moment can happen in any competitive game, but repeated incidents create a very different conversation. That's a pattern, and when a brand's marketing team is deciding who continues representing its logo on national television, patterns matter. Companies aren't only looking at statistics. They're watching how an athlete's behavior affects the image attached to the brand.
The way Sophie Cunningham came down on her leg, she could have been injured. So they said, yo, get out of here, dog. Get out of here. Then, I don't know if y'all was looking at her lips. She was talking about, try me. Try me. Yo, you already tried Sophie? You got all the samples of Sophie. You talking about try me. What are you talking about? This lady is unhinged right now, man. This is crazy work. And it makes you wonder. It's like, dog, you were the best player for the Sky at this moment. Look how she landed on the leg. Oh, my goodness. Like, you were the best player for the Sky. And you decided to do this? You weren't even thinking about the game. You was thinking about some kind of revenge or something. Somebody sent you on a mission. You were on a mission, dog. I don't know what you had going on here, but DJONai, this is unacceptable. Disrespectful, disgusting, and I'm glad they got you up out.
Then came the interview that pushed the basketball controversy far beyond the boundaries of court. Carrington didn't exactly defuse the situation in the way many players might after being criticized for physical play. While discussing Cunningham, she brought up the term white privilege, rather than simply taking responsibility for the incident and moving forward. Suddenly, a conversation that began with physical basketball play became a much larger discussion about intent, motive, race, and everything else that comes with a phrase carrying that much weight when spoken publicly in front of reporters. Regardless of whether viewers believe the remark was justified or completely unrelated to what happened on the floor, the tone of the entire story changed overnight. And that shifted a little to make the situation easier for her position with fans or sponsors.
photo from the flagrant 2 on DJONai Carrington against Sophie Cunningham, where she proceeded to go into the locker room and tweet white privilege after being thrown out of the game. I'm not going to comment on that situation, but I will say this. This is a flagrant 2. Black, white, Asian, Hispanic, don't matter. This is a flagrant. I mean, she clotheslined her. What more do you want? So this looks very bad. It just shows that the WNBA is nowhere near where they need to be professionally. Because again, this is a clothesline. It's flagrant.
Furthermore, Cunningham hasn't actually retaliated in the same way, not with her words. Anyway, for the most part, she has simply continued playing, showing up, and letting her performance speak for itself. She has already dealt with plenty of noise this season and has generally handled it in a similar fashion. Because of that contrast, many people online have started asking why one player is being portrayed as the tough competitor while the other is receiving praise for maintaining her composure despite repeatedly absorbing the contact. Really, the image is straightforward. One player gets hit and stays relatively quiet. The other player delivers a contact and then becomes increasingly vocal about the situation. Fans aren't the only ones noticing which image looks better on camera. Brands are even quicker to notice. Social media certainly didn't stay quiet about it either. Reebok still has DJONAI Carrington on an endorsement deal after she cheap shot Sophie Cunningham and screams white privilege was one post that gained significant attention online. The person making that argument wasn't talking about basketball statistics. They were arguing that Carrington had become a liability for the brand. Others took an even stronger position, calling for Reebok to drop her and demanding that the company take a stand. Quote posts continued piling up, with people sharing their own reactions, resurfacing older clips, and posting screenshots of previous remarks. All of it eventually became part of a much larger online argument over whether she should remain on the brand's roster.
Mention the fact that she said white privilege. That is the story. The story isn't that she got kicked out. It's that she tweeted out white privilege as though because Sophie Cunningham is white, somehow that's why she got kicked out. They go on to defend her, the story, the narrative that she's not a dirty player. She makes plays like this all the time. I put together a little clip of DJ Carrington, who is definitely one of the dirtiest players in the WNBA. I don't know if we can roll it, but she's taken her long fingernails. She's scratched Caitlin Clark's eyes out. She's had multiple instances of chasing people down from behind, trying the same swat and smashing them in the head and causing mini fights. She pulled another girl's hair. I don't know if we'll get to that clip in a second when she's falling. Totally dirty play. This is not a skin color thing. She has a history of making dirty plays, and it's fine. The NBA, you can be a rough and tumble league. Now, where this thing gets absolutely bananas is when you start making it into a race and culture war, and the people talking about it are not mentioning 99% of the time that she went back and tweeted white privilege. White privilege.
That's exactly the kind of headline companies hate, seeing connected to their brand. When consumers publicly say they will stop purchasing Reebok products as long as Carrington remains one of its endorsed athletes, the conversation becomes much bigger than fans simply venting for a day and forgetting about it by the weekend. Once potential boycott enters the discussion, marketing executives have to start paying attention because the issue can affect public perception, brand loyalty, and ultimately sales. It's much harder to explain a negative reaction from consumers during a business meeting than it is to explain a controversial foul on a sports highlight show the following morning. And that's where the situation becomes potentially much more serious for everyone involved.
We are paying attention to what Dijonai Carrington did to Sophie Cunningham. It was not a race-based decision. And to call that a white privilege-based foul is to completely undermine the term of white privilege and to also completely ignore the rules in basketball. You hit her in the head, you drew blood, you didn't connect with the ball at all whatsoever. So to me, it was just very ignorant and to some degree asinine by DJONAI Carrington to suggest that that call was based on white privilege. Have we seen examples of white players make that same foul and get away with it? Yes. Have we seen examples of black players make that same foul and get away with it? Yes. There was no white privilege involved in that specific call. DJONAI, you hit her in the head and you drew blood.
Carrington eventually attempted to walk back part of the controversy. A statement followed, along with more subdued comments to the media, apparently emphasizing the intensity of competition rather than suggesting anything deliberate or personal. On paper, that's usually the smartest approach. Take responsibility where necessary, lower the temperature, move forward, and let the next strong performance change the conversation. But this situation didn't happen after just one controversial moment. It came after multiple fouls, a highly discussed comment, a wave of online criticism, and growing attention surrounding her relationship with Cunningham. Because of that sequence, The attempt to move past the controversy hasn't gone the way these situations normally do. People couldn't simply forget everything after 1 or 2 days once the incidents had started looking like a larger pattern.